Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Today I wanted to make an all-encompassing loot guide for Diablo 4 Season 8 that's going to cover pretty much absolutely everything that you guys need to know in order to most efficiently get loot, materials, mythic uniques, greater affix gear, pretty much everything that you need to know I'm going to cover in this video. Everything will be timestamped, and I'm going to do my best to keep it short, so let's just get into it. Before I get into the video, I want to give a big thanks to today's sponsor, ExitLag. ExitLag is a program that drastically increases your connection, which is particularly helpful in a game like Diablo 4, where disconnects are pretty common, especially on season starts, and where bad ping can actually make your damage worse. With ExitLag, say goodbye to those laggy launch days with their AI-powered route optimization, always ensuring that you are on the best possible server with the best possible connection. Their multipath technology works to drastically reduce your ping in thousands of games, so no matter what you're playing, ExitLag has you covered. Having lower ping is especially helpful in a game like Diablo, where certain builds can get pretty laggy, and actually having less input delay means that you can spam out more abilities per second, which makes quite the difference on a build like Lightning Spear Sork, where you have such low cooldowns and you're just spamming all your skills out. So depending on your build, this can actually be a massive damage increase for you. There's also just no feeling worse than lagging while playing, and ExitLag, at least for me, has just completely fixed that. If you don't believe me, you can try it out yourself completely for free with a 3-day free trial, where all you have to do is just create an account, download the software, choose your game and server, and then boom, you're good to start blasting with the best performance that you've ever had. And for a limited time, using my link in the description, you can get a full 50% off on an annual plan. It's a great way to support the channel, but more importantly, improve your experience in pretty much any game you play, whether it be competitive or casual. ExitLag has got your back. So right now, the best way to do almost everything in regards to loot is basically just farming Belial over and over again, and there's about 5 different reasons for that, which I'll go over. But I'd say the biggest reason, which might dissuade a lot of you guys from wanting to actually do this, is the fact that the Belial materials have been duped just out the ass. So there's just hundreds of thousands of them roaming free, and if you go on a trade site, for example, you can buy husks for like 10 to 15 mil per, which in the realm of trading in Diablo 4 is extremely cheap. For example, if I were to sell one of these items here, like when I bought this was like 15 billion gold or something. This triple J, which I got out of one of those boxes that I was showing at the beginning of the video, this would sell with a dead stat on it, this is basically 2 GA. This would sell for like 20 to 30 billion or something, and that would be able to fund a disgusting amount of Belial runs. Obviously, you have to engage with a trade site for one, and then you have to sell something, which is a little bit annoying, but also you could argue, it might feel a little weird to be actively taking advantage of duplicated materials, which is kind of the reason that I'm making this video. But honestly, this is the best way to do everything, and it isn't even close. First of all, if you're trying to get mythic uniques, there's basically not really another good solution. Killing bosses is your best way to get them. If you kill a normal boss that's like tormented on tier 4, you have a 0.75% chance per boss kill to get a mythic unique. But if it's Belial, you have a 2% chance. The other best way to get mythic uniques, other than just trying to get them to drop raw from the bosses, is by taking advantage of the Oath Scrolls. So the Oath Scrolls are just a reputation thing where you turn in 250 spectral ash here, and then it gives you a little bit of reputation. So I'm going to just buy 2. You can see that right now I'm at 14.5k. I'll turn in 1. That gave me about 6k. Ironically enough, the best way to get Spectral Ash is by killing Belial. On Torment 4, you get about 600 to 700 per kill. Other bosses, I don't exactly know how much they give you. I just know that killing Belial is the absolute best way to do this. They did buff how much you get from doing the actual incursions, but the reason that this is good for getting mythic uniques is that you can buy these scrolls and then offload them to an alt character, and when you make a brand new character, this board is going to be completely reset, and there's a resplendent spark at the very end of it. So basically, you could just create a level 1 character, mule over a whole bunch of the scrolls, and then you can just get this resplendent spark. With this Resplendent Spark, you have 2 options. You can either random craft. If you have 2 Resplendent Sparks, you can random craft, obviously, a completely random mythic unique at the blacksmith, as seen here. Or if you go to the, no jeweler in this town, dude. Like I was saying, if you go to the jeweler, you can deterministically craft whatever uber unique you want with just 2 Resplendent Sparks, but then you need a whole bunch of runes. And funnily enough, the best way to get runes is also by killing Belial. Getting these runes is actually extremely difficult, and the realistic best way to get them is simply to just go onto the trade site and just find whichever runes you want and just buy them, right? So for example, for Harlequin Crest, you need box, but these can be particularly expensive depending on which one you actually need. So box aren't, how much is a box? Expensive. The one that would be expensive would be like ohm, right? So let's go ohm. Here we go. Selling for like 500 mil, right? So you need to engage with trade a little bit in this scenario if you wanted to get the runes to actually deterministically craft. Otherwise, your best bet would basically just be random crafting over and over and over and over again. And it's really easy to get the resplendent sparks by just doing the reputation thing, which again, the best way to do is with Belial mats, because every kill just gives you so much spectral ash. Additionally, the best way to get just straight up gear is also by killing Belial, because not only can you target farm whatever unique it is that you want. So for example, if I want a GA on Sidhe bindings, you get a significantly higher chance of whatever unique you want to be GA, opening it out of the Belial cache, than just killing the specific boss itself. So it's extremely good for uniques, but also you turn in the spectral ash in order to get the oath scrolls here, and then that lets you overfill your reputation, which out of every time that you overfill this bar, you get the mystery caches, which are what I opened at the beginning of the video, which gives you an absolute shit ton of greater affix. So every time you open one cache, it's a guaranteed at least one GA legendary item, a guaranteed at least one GA ancestral, unique item, and it just gives you a ton of materials. Right now, the bottleneck for like masterworking your gear, for example, is either going to be Veiled Crystals or Forgotten Souls, and opening those caches, well, what do you know? It happens to give you both of them. But also, if you're at a drought of these, because you get so many uniques from killing the bosses, specifically Belial, right, it's the best way to get these materials too. You just pick absolutely everything up, and then you salvage it. Fortunately, though, this is insanely boring, but it is pretty much the best way to get absolutely everything, right? And it is extremely cheap to do so. As you can tell, farming Belial's completely overpowered, and basically you're solve all for almost every problem you could have. But for those of you guys that are maybe playing SSF, well, enforcing that upon yourself, or you don't really want to take advantage of duplicated mats, or maybe just boss farming is really, really boring for you, I have this little cheat sheet here that I'm just going to talk about one by one of the best way to get absolutely everything in the game. I'll just expand on it and give a little bit more context. One thing though that absolutely everybody is going to need, regardless of if you are farming Belial over and over again or not, is you're going to need Obducite. So the best way to get Obducite is by doing Tributes of Refinement. I don't have any on me, but Tributes of Refinement, it's just a Kuros Undercity run. You finish it at the end, you get about 2,000 Obducite. It's good to do this in a group of 4, and then you guys kind of just rotate who pops it. If you are not the main leader, I believe you get less. I think it's around 12 to 1,500. Not 100% sure, but either way, that's the best way to do it. Refinement tributes are extremely easy and very efficient. I'll talk about how to get them in a sec, but you can just see it right there, right? The other best way to get Obducite is Nightmare Dungeons. If you have a really fast build, you could do Nightmare Dungeons in 1 to 2 minutes, and you get, in Torment 4, at least about 1,200 Obducite per Nightmare Dungeon. If you're playing like Death Trap Rogue or Lightning Spear or Sork, this is also very efficient, and then you don't have to rely on others for Tributes of Refinement. Or if you just don't have Tributes of Refinement, right? Nightmare Dungeons is your other best bet. Doing Infernal Hordes is very inefficient for Obducite, I have found. And obviously, boss mats or boss farming is still just OP for all of the reasons that I mentioned, but if you just want to farm them organically, pretty much the only good way to do so is Tribute of Titans. You can get every boss mat by just doing random stuff in the open world, but it's very inefficient. Tribute of Titans just gives you a whole bunch of mats at the end of each run, and it's kind of random, but if you're doing it in a run of 4, every single person, or a group of 4 rather, every person in your group is going to get some materials, and you can basically infinitely sustain bosses. If you run a group of 4 with a Tribute of Titans, you just pile all of your runs together, and then pile all your mats together, run the bosses, and then when you run the bosses, you'll get Tribute of Titans back. So the best way to get all these tributes that I've mentioned here is Titans. You get them a lot from just killing bosses themselves, which is pretty funny. And then the second best way is by doing the pit. You probably get some with Whisper caches, but not too regularly. Then we have the Tribute of Radiance here. I'll talk about this more because I want to recap Uber Uniques in a second, but the Tribute of Radiance just give you the name wrong. It's actually not Radiance. Radiance is the Ancestral Legendaries one, which is okay, but not great to be honest. There is one that gives you a chance at a Mythic Unique, which is pretty good, and the only way to get that, as far as I know, is Whisper caches. I forget the name, though, but you guys can just comment down below what the name is. Yeah, you really only get those out of Whisper caches. And then Refinement ones, the best way to get these is doing the pit or opening up Whisper caches, or when you're actually doing tributes, you'll see that they drop Refinement fairly often. If you want greater affix gear and you don't want to just farm Belial all day, you have 2 decent options. So Infernal Horde gives you a ton of rep if you go in there and you focus entirely on Aether Fiends, Aether Elites, and even Aether Lords. Every time that you kill those, they will give you a Spectral Ash, and then with that Spectral Ash, they'll give you a ton of raw reputation actually, and then that'll just help you get a lot of the boxes here, which is pretty good. Ideally, you want to try to do wave 10 of Infernal Hordes because that will give you just the most reputation. Also, they did buff the amount of reputation that you get from doing the apparitions themselves. It is probably a little bit less than doing the Infernal Hordes still, so probably your best bet. And then the second best way to get greater affix gear is by spamming the pit over and over again, because that's going to give you obols. I guess I could write right here, obols, pit spam. And the good thing about obols is it's like a maybe 1 in, I'd say, just anecdotally, like 1 in 8 chance to get a greater affix, but you can like target. So if you're trying to get like a weapon, for example, I could just buy one-handed, wands over and over and over again. So I have a higher likelihood of actually getting what it is that I'm looking for. Another decent way, I guess, to get greater affix items, it's not nearly as good as either of these things, but if you have a bunch of like wave 6 compasses, you can just blast to the end, and then when you open up the box at the very end of the Infernal Horde, it's going to give you guaranteed greater affix gear. It's not very many, it's like 2 to 3 items, right? But if you don't have anything else to do and you have a lot of these, that is a okay way to get them. Now, because we mentioned Infernal Hordes, what's the best way to actually get the compasses themselves is basically you just do Whisper Caches, and then there's an option that gives you dungeon keys, and then you open that, and that'll give you multiple compasses each. And then obviously the best way to actually get the Whisper Caches themselves is just by Grim Favor maxing. Just go around the map, do whatever is going to give you a lot of Grim Favors. Dungeons, I'd say like doing an Apparition Incursion real quick, that gives you 5. The PvP boss has always been a really good one. And then just like doing any random dungeon that you think you can get quickly, 5 Grim Favors. Oftentimes the pit will have Grim Favors associated with it as well. Helltide is fairly decent too. Helltide for getting actual loot though is pretty terrible. The boxes have a very low GA chance I've seen, so I wouldn't recommend being here for very long. But if you just want to get Grim Favors real quick, that's a decent thing to do. Then we have Veiled Crystals and Souls. This is a bottleneck for a lot of people. The absolute best way to get these materials is by boss farming, and basically everything that drops, you just salvage it. There you go. The other best way is by doing the reputation BS, for whatever reason I typed that, but the reputation thing, so either doing Infernal Horde spam so that you can get a lot of reputation, or doing the Apparition Incursion over and over again, or just farming Belial, of course, and then turning in those caches. Those caches just give you a lot of raw materials as well as gear that you can then salvage. Then we have runes. Pretty much the only way to get runes is by killing bosses. There is the Tributes of Harmony here, but the problem is these aren't really going to drop the legendary runes almost ever. These are good if you're trying to get like 6 of a certain blue or even yellow ones. I mean, it's a pretty low drop rate, to be honest, so I almost never do these. And again, the best way to just get the legendary ones is simply just by farming tormented bosses. Then gold, if gold is an issue, obviously the best way to get gold is by selling stuff on trade site, whether it be boss materials or whether it be just like getting certain greater affix gear or whatever. It can just sell for exorbitant amount. For example, this is worth like 30 billion gold. But if you don't want to engage with trade or anything, the best way to get gold is to farm bosses and then just sell every unique that you get. You can do like Whisper Cache gold turn-ins, but it's really, really weak. You get like 2 to 3 mil or something like that from a turn-in, but every single unique item sells for like 2 to 300k, so that is simply just way more efficient for you. Should pretty much cover everything. For a quick recap on Mythic Uniques, I'd say the best way to do it is basically obviously farm Belial so that you get a lot of Spectral Ash. With that Spectral Ash, buy the Oath Scrolls, go into a brand new character, and then buy the Resplendent Spark cache and just do that over and over again. And then either you can random gamble at the blacksmith, or you can go on trade site and buy the runes that you need and then deterministically craft. You could farm bosses, but honestly it's basically impossible to get 6 legendary runes that you need to guarantee craft. So you basically have to engage with trade site in that scenario. Another decent way to get Mythic Uniques is there's a tribute run that you can do, and you can do this in a group, and everybody in the group has a chance to get it. It's about a 25% chance, I believe. Rob made a whole dedicated video on that, and the best way to get those actual tributes is from the Whisper Caches themselves, right? But otherwise, just farming the bosses has a 1 in 50 chance, or at least Belial, and then like 1 in 100 or 1 in 125 or something like that farming the other bosses. Anyways, hopefully this video helped. If you have any other questions, let me know down in the comments, and I will leave this crappy little written thing in the description, but it's honestly not very detailed. I'll maybe give it a little bit more detail or something like that if I put it in the description, but I'm not sure. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.